All right, let's get to another story that is damn near identical, Israel. But before we do that, here, Biden sums up his next 24 hours. Speaking to the pool, I'm going up to my granddaughter's birthday in New York. We're going to watch the debate tomorrow. And tomorrow I'm doing 9/11. That's right. He's going to do 9/11.
Up to my granddaughter's birthday in New York. Then we're going to watch the debate. And then tomorrow I'm doing 9/11. I spoke to the vice president. She seems calm, cool, collected.
That's right, baby. He's doing 9/11 tomorrow. Dude, what if he actually does do 9/11, though? Like, again. Last time George W. Bush did it. What if he actually fucking does do it, dude? Think about that. Anyway. How come he doesn't get in trouble for saying he's going to do 9/11, but I get in trouble when I say America deserved it? That's kind of bullshit, dude. The double standard is glaring, okay? Give the people something to remember him by besides the genocide in Gaza. Yeah, he's like, you know, Israel's doing 10 9/11s every day in Gaza, and Americans can also experience a little bit of that because a lot of you have been saying a lot of mean things about Israel. So you deserve it too. Watch me. Watch me. Why? Okay, let's talk about Israel.
The Hamas-run health ministry in Gaza says 19 Palestinians have been killed in an Israeli strike on a designated humanitarian zone. Local reports say at least 60 more who were sheltering in the displacement camp at al-Mawasi in the southwest of the Gaza Strip were injured. Israel's military says it targeted what it called a Hamas command center. Here's Mike Thompson.
Not long past midnight, devastation came from the sky. Eyewitnesses say at least 4 Israeli missiles struck this sprawling, overcrowded tent camp along the Gaza coast. Around 20 tents were obliterated, burying many who'd been sleeping beneath sand and rubble.
It's one of the largest craters that, at least I've seen in this fucking, one of the largest craters I've seen since October 7. The justification is still the same from Israel. The false justification from Israel is, there's a Hamas command center there. Also, the unimaginably gross way that New York Times covered this. Breaking news, Gazan authorities reported huge craters and entire families missing after Israel said it struck a humanitarian zone to target a militant center. It's just, I don't know what else to say. It's so fucking gross. Ryan Grimm says, the Times knows this language is parsed with active v passive for its willingness to assign responsibility or not depending on perpetrator. A garbled passive mouthful like this blow, even after Israel acknowledges it struck a humanitarian zone, leaving carnage in its wake, is deliberate trolling at this point. They bombed another humanitarian zone with a bunker buster. Incredible.
It wasn't until dawn that the scale of the destruction at al-Mawasi began to become clear. Deep craters, some as much as 9 meters across, bear witness to what for many had been a night of horror.
We saw women and children cut in pieces. Many died. There are still people missing.
Al-Mawasi is a designated humanitarian safe zone, but that seems a meaningless term there today. This woman is the mother of 10 children.
Death surrounds us in every place, and we don't know where to go. We are dying slowly. Israelis, please just kill us, finish us off. We are not living.
The Israeli military insists it successfully targeted a Hamas command and control center at al-Mawasi. Every effort, the army also said, had been taken to minimize civilian casualties, using extensive intelligence, precise munitions and aerial surveillance. But that's not reflected in the many haunted faces there.
The Israelis told us to come here. We believed them and came. But everything I had is now gone. Please find us a solution. We are peaceful people. We don't have anything to do with the Hamas resistance.
With little sign yet of a Gaza ceasefire deal, the suffering of these people and others all over Gaza goes on.
bro, it's just insane. Like, I don't know how, I don't know what to say. Like, they're just fucking cratering humanitarian tent encampments, dude. Like, there's nothing else. There's nothing to say at this point other than, I mean, what I don't know. I don't know what to even fucking say. I don't know. Would you consider BBC in terms of balanced coverage compared to others? No, it's so bad. BBC is incredibly bad. The worst is New York Times on Israel. Like, there is no worse paper in the Western world in terms of like the credibility that they have and how much they use that to defend Israel. The New York Times is number one because like Fox News is partisan. Okay. In terms of distribution, in terms of like perceived objectivity, in terms of credibility, the New York Times is the most important newspaper in the United States of America, and they are so fucking gross in the way that they cover this. Like, they are so unimaginably, like, they are abhorrent. What is this? BBC breached guidelines 1,500 times over Israel-Hamas war. What is this? This is probably some fucking right-wing nonsense, isn't it? Oh, the BBC breached its own editorial guidelines. Oh, God damn it, dude. Come on, brother. Oh, here it is. Okay, I unlocked it. A report revealed a deeply worrying pattern of bias against Israel. Against Israel. I knew it. As soon as I saw this, I was like, I fucking knew it, dude. This is bullshit. I told you. As soon as I saw BBC breach its own guidelines, like what? To cover Palestinian plight accurately? Doubtful. Yeah. Laughable shit. I don't care that the report was written by an Israeli lawyer, dude. I just know what BBC's coverage looks like. I've been looking at BBC coverage from the start. Deadly Israeli strike in Gaza Humanitarian Zone targets Hamas commanders. Yeah, look at this bias against Israel. Perhaps it's because they didn't say that, like, the humanitarian zone was asking for it hard enough in the title. That's crazy. Anyway.
Thompson, BBC News, Jerusalem.
The Israeli military says its investigation has shown it was highly likely that an American activist had been killed as a result of indirect and unintended IDF fire. 26-year-old Ayşenur Aycik, who is of Turkish origin, was shot dead on Friday during a weekly protest.
That's crazy. Like, bro, she's American, dog. Like, you don't have to add that shit, honestly. I feel like they do that specifically to be like, listen, she was kind of asking for it. She's Muslim. She's from one of those Muslim countries, Like, it's a way to like remove the American status. Like, how American was she really? I mean, she was Turkish after all, that sort of shit. The Biden statement on it is so fucked up. I haven't even gotten to it yet.
Against Jewish settlement expansion in the occupied West Bank. The US Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, has said in the last couple of hours that her killing was unprovoked and unjustified. Well, here he is in that news conference a short while ago.
With regard to the tragic killing of Ayşenur, I think what we saw of this investigation is it seems to show what eyewitnesses have said and made clear, that her killing was both unprovoked and unjustified. No one should be shot and killed for attending a protest. No one.
Unless you're protesting against Israel in America, in which case we will kill you. Yeah, it's great, man. Great stuff. Thank you. Thank you so much for this statement. Are you going to also use the surveillance equipment that you have at your disposal to help the Israeli government identify where Yahya Sinwar is, which you seemingly haven't been able to figure out who the fucking killer was on the Israeli team so you can drone strike them? Because that is how you should be operating if all things were fair. If all things were equal in this situation, you would be working tirelessly to kill the IDF sniper who shot and killed an American citizen. Unless, I guess, there's a double standard here and Israel is never in the wrong. And the person who is in the wrong usually is those who dare to recognize the humanity of Palestinians and even, dare I say, protest Israel's actions.
Looking at this incident, have pointed out the what seems to be a double standard or a different treatment of this death, death of an American citizen at the hands of Israeli forces to, other incidents where Americans have been killed in the conflicts in the Middle East or injured. Obviously there are different circumstances, but the president in relation to an attack by Iranian proxies earlier this year said, if you harm an American, we will respond. Does that apply in this case, or are we talking about a different standard?
Well, it's clear to anybody, Simon, that what the president was talking about in that context was a terrorist attack or a direct attack from a state or non-state actor that intentionally was conducted to put Americans or American citizens in harm's way. And of course, when it comes to the protection of our citizens and our personnel, and if they are targeted, we of course will take appropriate action. As it relates to the events,
that standard literally fits in this situation, dog. That what you're describing is just exactly what Israel did, which is a state actor that intentionally shot and killed an American citizen. Like, the way that he is trying to describe this event, like, this guy's 34 and graduated from University of Florida. How the fuck did he get to this level of prominence in the State Department? God damn, we have fallen off as a nation. Holy fuck.
On Friday, we are still gathering information as it relates to what transpired, what happened, and as tragic as it is, and it is tragic anytime anybody loses their life, any civilian loses their life. For people who work at this department, it is especially tragic when an American citizen loses their life. But we still don't know with full certainty what transpired and what happened, and that's why we are working to get as much information as we can, as well as encouraging our partners in Israel to quickly and robustly conduct.
Dude, if these kinds of investigations were needed to be taking place, you would literally be like, okay, well, I know that Hamas captured and kidnapped like Israeli American citizens, but we have to ask them why they did it. We have to allow them to conduct an internal investigation as to why they did it, what the reasoning was behind why they did it. It's crazy. Like, he's literally being like, yeah, maybe she was Hamas, in the West Bank as an American citizen. So maybe there was a good fucking reason for the Israeli sniper to just like shoot her in the head.
Conduct and conclude their process and make their findings public so we can understand what happened. And should whatever happened deem that there be appropriate accountability, the United States would certainly expect that as well. Going back to what I was saying before, it is of course tragic when any civilian loses their life. But it is important to note what you said, Simon, which is that each circumstance is different, and it is really important to keep that in mind in these processes.
The way that you're describing that sounds like you haven't sort of obviously you don't know exactly what transpired, but do you?
Wait, this guy's name is Chairman Wow. Not to be a useful idiot or glaze the Dems, but has it occurred to people, especially Stein supporters, that Harris can't go against the status quo and expect to win? Yeah. Why is Harris the presidential candidate again? What happened? Because I feel like there was a thing that happened that was like completely against the status quo, that the very same fears that you have right now that you're demonstrating were exactly what happened in that circumstance as well. You can, as a matter of fact, and should go against the status quo when there is overwhelming public support for said actions, as demonstrated by the fact that the trajectory of this election changed when the Democratic Party, by accident, responded to public pressure. and swapped out Biden for Kamala Harris. You don't know what happened in terms of like why Biden is no longer running for president and Kamala Harris is running for president. You don't know what happened? I'm Canadian, bro.
You have doubt that it
We're
was
done.
an Israeli bullet?
I am not going to get ahead of a process here, Simon. Obviously, there has been a great deal of open source and public reporting and eyewitness reporting about what transpired on Friday, and I certainly will let those comments and those reportings be. But I think most important is to let this process play out, for the facts to be gathered and for those to come to light. And I will just leave it at that.
This dude is a demon, but he's fucking bad at his job. Yeah. Sometimes when I see stuff like this, I wonder, like, is it because like there's a little bit of humanity inside of him that's like trying to crawl out, and he's like genuinely aware of it, and it's just like, no, I that's why I think like John Kirby is the worst one out of all of them. Like he just loves it. Like he probably jerks off to the idea of like American citizens that dare lend support to Palestinians getting sniped in the fucking head. That's like, he nuts there.
Yeah.
You said you'll look for more information from an independent Israeli investigation. That's been the same U.S. posture for Hindujab, who was killed 224 days ago. To Ravi's question, how can Aishanor's family take an investigation seriously if it's conducted by the perpetrator? And, moreover, if they've continued delayed and reportedly lied to the U.S. about their investigation into Hindujab?
Well, that is exactly why we have called and have continued to call for these processes to be as swift and as thorough as possible, and we have that same expectation here as well, and we'll continue to press.
It's been 224 days since Hindujab was killed, and in the same instance, for example, we've seen open source reporting, eyewitness accounts that evidently show a potential human rights violation. You say, you're pushing for a swift investigation. If that's the same posture with this, when can Americans expect a conclusion?
Any American can expect that this administration and this government will do everything we can to ascertain and gather whatever information is required. And I'm going to let that process play out. I don't have any...
I'm not going to watch 27 minutes of the State Department presser. I don't want to kill myself. I'm sorry, chatter. If I were to watch the State Department pressers, I would fucking kill myself in a video game, okay? It is some of the darkest. Like, these people in that room, the journalists in that room are doing the Lord's work, okay? Even when I watch it in 1 minute increments, it's still some of the darkest shit, because you have no humanity behind those eyes, man. You got a fucking State Department official straight up sitting there and being like, permanent genocide is actually fucking good, and our ally and our partners are doing it, and I think that that's great, and no amount of American death will actually cause us to change course. We will just block and push. Anyway, when is Israel going to become the 51st state? Bro, they are already. They are. Breaking. Biden says the death of U.S. citizen Aishinur Ezgi in the West Bank from IDF fire was apparently an accident and result of a bullet that hit the ground and ricocheted. That's what he said.
Sir, what's your reaction, sir, to the killing of the Israeli admission that they probably killed the Turkish activist in the West Bank?
More detail. Apparently, it was an accident, ricocheted off the ground, and we got hit by accident. We're working on that now.
Dude, that's like, that's your citizen, right? Like, that's like, there is perhaps no greater indication that you're just completely fucking cucked than referring to the assassination of one of your citizens as like, whatever. I guess it was an accident. Shut the fuck up. Oh, I guess it's okay then. Remember when the press was so wound up that IDF bombed a hospital that they spun it for weeks, that Hamas bombed their own hospital, and then they just moved on entirely? As if that didn't happen. Yeah, and then they also stopped covering the Israeli forces bombing every other fucking hospital. So I do remember that. I also remember so many people online who were fucking mad at me as though I bombed the fucking hospital. Many of those guys have just shut the fuck up. The very same media that did not cover the pro-rape rallies that occurred in Israel, of course, our greatest ally in the region, our greatest ally on the planet, a nation more moral than the United States of America. Oh, it's crazy because what Biden's statement here is insane, because Israel itself literally fucking said that they shot at her because they thought she was someone else.
So after retreating from the hilltop, I was right there where the garbage can is, and it was completely quiet already back then. The clashes had dissipated, and then after 10 or...
The White House, by the way, Biden has not spoken to the family of Aishanur Agi, the American killed by Israeli forces 3 days ago. The Israelis have reached out, made sure that we knew that they were promptly investigating this. We'll obviously withhold our judgment. We'll see what they learn.
The American citizen who was killed in the West Bank on Friday, Aishanur Agi, has the president had a chance to speak to her family at all? And do you have any sense of where the investigation stands? I know that you all had asked for the ball to get rolling on an investigation to her death. Do you know?
I feel like this, the World Central Kitchen incident, the Hind Rajab murder, all been events that could have and maybe should have turned mainstream tide on supporting Israel, but that hasn't happened. Genuinely, what more will it take for there to be a finally vibe shift, and when we can start turning Israel into the pariah state that it is? Israel already is a pariah state. Israel will most likely never be able to fucking Israel will most likely never be treated in the same way ever again for as long as it exists. For as long as there are Palestinians living and breathing on this planet, Israel will never be seen in the same way ever again. The question that you're asking me is, when will the media change? The media will never change. Okay? And and the reason why they'll never change is because they are propagandists working at the behest of the State Department. Okay? They have their own personal interests in this story, in the way that they want to cover the story. They're owned by the corporations. Their goal is to fucking advance the interests of the State Department. And as long as the State Department continues saying Israel can do no wrong, it's the most moral nation on the planet, it's the best nation on earth, then the media will keep covering it that way. It's the very same media that championed the Iraq War, knowing full well that it was built on a lie. As we've talked about before, this is not the first time that Israel has assassinated an American citizen. That's why I told you that this assassination was not going to move the needle, unfortunately.
Thanks, John. The American citizen who was killed in the West Bank on Friday, Aishanur Agi, has the president had a chance to speak to her family at all? And do you have any sense of where the investigation stands? I know that you all had asked for the ball to get rolling on an investigation to her death. Do you know if there are any updates on that?
He has not spoken to the family as of yet. I don't have a call to talk about today. Obviously, we continue to mourn with her family, of course. The Israelis have reached out, made sure that we knew that they were promptly investigating this. As I understand it from just before I came out here, they are moving swiftly on this investigation and will soon, we think, in coming days, be able to present their findings and conclusions. We'll obviously withhold our judgment until we see that. We've called for a complete, thorough, swift, and transparent investigation. We'll see what they learn.
Yeah. So I just don't get it, because like when American citizens are killed by Israeli bombs or by Hamas hands directly, which the Israeli bombs are still attributed to Hamas hands, you guys don't do this like, let's conduct an investigation. You're like pretty quick with it. You immediately called the parents up of the Israeli American citizen that was killed. I just don't understand, like, is there a double standard here for fucking Turkish Americans? Is there a double standard for Americans who are pro-Palestinian? And by the way, it's not just because she's Turkish American. Just so you understand, it absolutely is because she is pro-Palestinian and killed by Israel. This happened to Rachel Corrie. Rachel Corrie is literally the whitest, as white as you can get, from fucking Olympia, okay? Blonde, blue-eyed Rachel Corrie was assassinated by an Israeli bulldozer. They literally said it was a fucking accident. Then they celebrated her murder. I'm saying this as a Turkish American citizen, a person with dual nationality, just like Ayşenur, okay? The highest order of priority here is Israel killed her, so obviously they can do no wrong. Ultimately, Israel has killed American citizens in the past and will continue to do so in the future.
For 15 minutes, it was completely quiet. I heard two distinct shots of live ammunition. One hit a metal object, and then I retreated a little bit backwards into the olive grove. And then a few seconds after, maybe 2 or 3 seconds, a second shot. And I heard someone calling my name and saying in English, help us, we need help, come over. So I raced through the olive groves down there. Her head was gushing with blood. She was lying here. I put my hand behind her back to try and stop the bleeding, which didn't stop. I looked up and saw a direct line of sight from where the soldiers were on that rooftop, some 200 meters away.
What could it have ricocheted off of? I just don't really understand. Like, it ricocheted off the ground? That's what Biden said. I mean, this is before we asked the question, why were they using sniper rifles in the direction of protests? Why were they shooting in the direction of protesters? Israel had an answer for that, by the way. They didn't say the bullet ricocheted or whatever. They might have told that to the American government. But that wasn't the first way that they actually tried to defend themselves. They said they thought she was someone else. They thought she was not an American peaceful protester, but a Palestinian peaceful protester, you know, because if she was a Palestinian peaceful protester that they shot dead to rights in the fucking head, there wouldn't even be a blip.
Quickly took her pulse. It was very, very weak. Her eyes were rolled back. Her skin started becoming yellow. And we panically called for the ambulance to come. By the time this had happened, it was completely quiet here. We were standing for 10, 15 minutes without anything happening. The reason why no one was filming is because it was completely quiet. And then all of a sudden, 2 shots. And the sniper or the soldier that was there took a kill shot.
This does not make you feel some type of way being an American Turkish citizen, knowing that this is how your government views you, values you? No. Because I know it already. And it's not because I'm also a Turkish American citizen. I'm also pro-Palestine. And I know how the government views me, dude. I know already. It's not like surprising to me at all. I talked about this. In the lower end of the fucking totem pole for American dual citizenship, because the American passport holds a lot of value, and not directly because it's associated with a human being, an American citizen, but because like that's a way for America to also say like, you don't touch our fucking citizens, we'll come and kill you, right? They have to defend their hegemonic power status by defending every American unconditionally. Having said that, however, everyone knows that there is a racial hierarchy of who America cares about. Palestinians are literally at the bottom of that. If you're a Palestinian American, you are lower than the lowest form of human for Americans, okay? Seriously, straight up. No, like more expendable than like black Americans. A black American gets like fucking kidnapped in Mexico, America's gonna do something about it, okay? No, it's not even a question. If you're a Palestinian American, you are the lowest priority. Okay, lowest. Not even a question. I'm telling you right now, Shireen Abu Akleh, Palestinian American citizen, very famous fucking journalist, assassinated by Israel in 2020. Nothing came of it. 2021. Nothing came of it. Nothing. Okay? Lowest priority, 100%. Just, oops, it was an accident. Yeah. Jamal Khashoggi was Saudi and American. And as a Saudi, you definitely get higher priority. But in terms of priority, Arab Americans, Muslim Americans have the lowest rank. He wasn't American, says Qatari Cat. No, he was a legal permanent resident. Don't think the comparison to other minorities is necessary here. If you're upset about what I have to say in this regard, you're just oblivious to the reality. You know, that's it. Because what I'm saying is the truth, and I will keep saying it. I've had this conversation with Mark Lamont Hill. If you guys recall, it's something that I keep repeating over and over again. The conditions that Palestinians are subjected to in Israel, especially in Gaza, are far worse than contemporary contemporary conditions that Black Americans are subjected to on a daily basis in the United States of America. Anyone that fucking says that that is not the truth is ridiculous. This does not mean that Black Americans are living great, okay, or are not victims of white supremacist criminal justice systems, not victims, not reduced to becoming enslaved by a different by a legal means. You know, that's still the truth. It's just that's how bad the situation is for Palestinians.
And this happens in context. This isn't an isolated incident.
Like if the conditions were similar right now, if by some magical happenstance, if the material conditions of the Palestinians were improved to a degree where they were elevated to the status of citizenship in the same way that Black Americans are, it would be considered the greatest achievement of human rights of all time. That is not to say that Black Americans are not oppressed by a white supremacist structure in this country. That is to show you how insane, how completely out of whack the situation in Israel is. So yeah.
Happens in the context of the 17 people who were killed in demonstrations in Beta since 2021. We have heard nothing about them because they're not Americans.
Devastating shit.